Oh, yeah. What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 47 of the Sailor Jerry podcast. My name is Matt Cothran. I am still your host. Today is Thursday, October 20th, 2022, and Sailor Jerry Spiced Rum is still made the old school way. 92 proof, bold, and smooth as hell. I hope everybody's doing good out there. I'm coming at you live from Toronto, Canada. You can probably tell by the sound of my voice that I am on tour. I am absolutely shredded. We have been playing some insane gigs, ladies and gentlemen, with Scowl, Drug Church, the Chats, and the Bronx rolling through towns. It's been an incredible run so far. Not many days off, balls to the wall, rock and roll touring. The shows have been insane. And if you've come out to one, thank you very much. And if you haven't, we still got some shows left. We got New York coming up this weekend, Boston after that. So go to thebronx.com with 3 X's, BRONXXX.com, and grab some tickets. And you won't be disappointed. All right. So let me just tell you that straight out the gate. Another thing I wanted to share with you guys, one of my most hated phrases on the internet is I was today years old when I learned this. Okay. Whenever I see that, it drives me crazy. But I have to use it because if you're watching on the YouTube, you will see that I was today years old when I learned that Sailor Jerry had Zoom backgrounds. This whole time, I've been like moving hotel furniture around and trying to get it looking somewhat respectable. And I could have just had this badass Sailor Jerry flash behind me. So if you go onto the YouTube, check it out. They got a couple selections on SailorJerry.com. This one is my favorite. It's really fucking cool. So yeah, your boy learned something new. You know what I mean? So anyways, we're going to get right into this episode because it's a great one. All right. So just trust me on this one. It's time for episode 47. Johnny Christ is the renegade bass player for modern day rock gods, Avenged Sevenfold. He is also the host of the Amazing Drinks with Johnny podcast. And in this action-packed episode, Johnny and myself take a look back at our first ever tour together, the meteoric rise of A7X, and all the rock and roll madness that came along with it. Of course, we talk about Johnny's love for podcasting and the highly anticipated new Avenged Sevenfold record. So sit back, relax, pour yourself some Sailor Jerry, and let's go.
Matt, how are you doing, man?
How you doing, Johnny Christ? Thank you for being on the Sailor Jerry podcast, my man. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great, man. I can't complain. Thank you for having me, man. Just life's good. I don't know.
Right on, man. That's a beautiful thing. You know, it's pretty crazy, and a lot of people won't know this, but in 2004, we went on tour together in the UK.
Right.
And was that your first UK tour or early?
It was our first. Yeah, it was our first UK tour.
Okay, because it was ours too.
Oh, it was your guys'. That's right. Yeah.
It was ours too. So in 2004, it was the Bronx, Avenged Sevenfold, and Lost Prophets on tour together in the UK. And I wanted to start off with that because what an incredible time. And you know, for us on our end,
you know, I mean, we were over there. I mean, you're flying by the seat of your pants. It's the first time in the UK. We were traveling in like a converted ambulance, and our driver was partying every night and throwing up every morning, and we were doing the same. And the rooms that we shared, you know, we had, you know, I mean, we're talking like a closet space between two bands, and we were
Right.
flip-flopping every night. And it was, I mean, it was what you can expect from just raw, early, out the gates, young bands trying to, you know, make their way in a new country type of touring. How do
Right.
you remember that tour?
I mean, pretty much is how you described it right there, my man. It was man, I think I was all of 19 years old at the time, and I was able to legally drink there, because the legal age was 19 at most clubs that we were playing and stuff. So that was pretty cool for me. I mean, you nailed it. Like those vans kind of look like ambulances that have been changed into vans. You got the two rows of seats, so you're just facing each other. One row's got to go back, one row's, and everyone wants to fight because they're hung over the next morning after having those Euro things on the street and all the snake bite shots that we were having. I mean, this is a time when we were, to your point, we're just starting out and just going over to the UK for the first time. So with you guys, we'd finish our set, whoever was done first, and the other band was already at the bar. We were hanging out at the bar together every single night after, wasn't anything else to do. It wasn't like you go into a cool bus or a hotel or anything like that. It's like, all right, set's done. Let's go to the bar and watch Lost Prophets tonight. That was the thing. We'd all just hang out. And I don't know if you remember those snake bite shots at the time. Those were brutal.
Yeah, I do, man. I do. And one thing that I remember clear as day, and it was so funny because I don't remember what city it was in, but I remember coming into um I think it actually might have been Leeds, where like kind of by the academy where that big boat bar is. But we came
Mm.
into the backstage room, and there was like, I mean, it was smaller than small this time around. It was a super small room, and there was like a case of cider on the floor, and like, you know, maybe a thing of hummus or whatever on the desk. And you you were you were laid out on like the one bench, and you were sleeping like this
Oh
with
yeah,
you
like my coffin
with,
sleep.
and I was like, "Are you really sleeping like that?" And you're like, "Yeah, dude, it's actually pretty comfortable." And I was like, "All right."
That's funny. I forgot about that. Yeah, no, that was the thing. Like from traveling in the van, and you got even in the States when you're traveling in a van doing warp tours and shit like that. It's like we took out a couple rows in the econo vans and laid down like a little thin mattress so everyone who wasn't driving that night could sleep. So you're like laid out like sardines in a row, right, in the bottom of this van. And so I quickly learned, being the smallest guy too, I got to find like a little nook to fit in. And I just like started going coffin style. And it actually I learned how to make it comfortable eventually. I was like, it's kind of nice. Like I'm lucky that way. A lot of people, my friends and stuff, as they get older, they complain about, having drinks and then not being able to sleep and stuff. Like drinking, not drinking anything, it doesn't affect I could probably fall asleep right now during this podcast, dude. If I was just like
No, for
sitting up,
sure.
like I'm just like I'm lucky that way. I could sleep anywhere. I don't know. Maybe it is from all the traveling at a young age, but like, yeah, that's weird. I forgot I used to do that. I used to fall
Oh,
asleep
dude,
like
it was great. It was amazing. And I'm the same way, dude. I do think it's because of touring 100%, because I mean, you're falling asleep in airports, you're falling asleep sitting up, you're falling asleep upside down, you're falling asleep partying. It's like any
yeah.
circumstance, you got to be able to just crash out, you know. So I think that definitely has something to do with it. I remember another funny thing I remembered from that tour was you guys had this like low level like fog machine thing that like ran
Yeah,
it
low
ran
line fog. Yeah.
low line fog, and it ran on ice, and it was
Mhm.
it was I remember Val freaking out every night because there's no fucking ice in England.
Yeah. And we had brought the motherfucker because this was the thing that we bought. Like we bought two of those in the States and we would bring them around everywhere. We just on the rider, it's like get a case of beer and some fucking ice for the fog machine. Cause when you put the ice in it, it takes the same fogger, and because it's cold, obviously, it leaves it low lying on the stage. And that was kind of the spooky cool vibe that we were going for. And that was our only production we had at the time. It was like,
Yeah.
all right, It's the only thing that's going to set us apart, guys. We're going to have low line fog on the stage. Yeah, but we had that. It's funny because after we used those for years, I started doing these Halloween parties when I bought my house in 2008. That's when I started doing them, and I went into storage. I was like, at this point, we weren't using the foggers anymore. I was like, where are those foggers? So I started bringing them out, and I set them up all over the house and just and have low line fog at the Halloween party here. And those took a shit too, though, man. And that was, again, like you said, it was 20 years ago we were using those things. That was fun though.
Dude, it's crazy. Yeah, and it was such a cool time, and even then, like our bands are pretty different, and then Lost Prophets. I mean, I didn't going into that. I'd never even heard of them, and they were massive at the time.
Right.
But like going into that, watching you guys play, even super early on, it was, you could just see people grabbing onto the band, and people were really, really into what you guys were doing. And you guys broke pretty, I mean, did you break first in the UK, kind of?
I mean, we were starting to get traction even on Waking, which is the album that we were out with during that touring cycle. We were doing the States, went over to the UK, came back. I mean, when we felt we were making it at the time is when we sold 100,000 copies of that record, and we were like, oh, this is fucking insane. I mean, I remember we got a limo that night that we got the news. We were out traveling somewhere. We had nowhere to go because it was in the middle of nowhere, a tour. But we're renting a limo, and I think we just had it drive around, like literally around the hotel that we were staying in, and we just drank champagne in a limo to celebrate 100,000 copies. Anyways, I digress. I guess it was kind of those two markets kind of were almost simultaneous in a lot of ways. I think it was due to that tour, being in front of the Lost Prophets there. I mean, they were doing 2,500 cap rooms. And we were getting close to that in the States, but certainly we weren't there in the UK yet. And I know for us, after that tour, we were getting all the press. The press was huge there. If you remember, like the magazines were it. If you were on the cover of one of those magazines, if you could get on Kerrang or Metal Hammer or whatever the case may be, a few of the other ones, I mean, that's how everybody in the UK was getting their bands, was through those magazines. And right after we did that Lost Prophet stores, when we started getting those that magazine cred, I mean, I think it was because we were partying with you guys the whole time. They were like, "Oh, these guys are crazy." We went like a couple. Jimmy ended up in jail that tour. I mean, back to the drinking and stuff. I remember your drummer was the sweetest dude ever. Like we came out, I was still green to the band. So one of the nights we went out, I don't remember which venue it was, but there was a fan there. This guy was a giant. I mean, no exaggeration. He was at least 7 feet tall. And he was just a, big bloke, as they say, big fun guy. But I hadn't met. I got to the bar late and I was sitting there hanging with the boys. And I guess Brian, my guitarist, and Zachy was pulling a prank on me and convinced this guy to act like he was going to kick my ass. And I remember Jimmy whispered in my ear, he goes, "It's a prank, dude. It's a prank." And it was right before something was about to happen. I was like, "What's a prank?" And then this giant motherfucker comes up on me, and I was like, he grabs me and was like, "You're in my spot, motherfucker," or says some crazy shit like that. But I remember I bring up the story to point out your drummer just leaped over and like grabbed it because he didn't know what was going on. He leaped over and grabbed the guy because we were all in this together, and like I remember I was like, dude, he just had my back. He didn't know it was a joke either. He just had my back against this giant man. It was just a really cool thing. It was just like that camaraderie of that tour. Like I had a lot of fond memories of that one, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Shout out to Jorma for having your back, of course. And yeah, I mean, what's funny, dude, is I remember you getting pranked a lot on that tour,
oh yeah,
on that tour.
Dude, I still get pranked. I had to turn it around on him now at this point because I'm just like, your pranks are getting old. And now I just, last few tours, I'm like, who was the one that was always first to prank me? And it was my best friend, Brian. So I'm like, all right. And now I've returned the favor 10 times over at this point. So it's, and the people have probably seen, if they're fans of my band and gone on YouTube, some of the pranks that I pulled on him. See, he wasn't smart enough to videotape any of them. So it's just guys like you who know about them. And they were good pranks. Don't get me wrong. But, I was also a little shit who had just joined the band, dropped out of high school and joined the band, They had been a band a whole 2 years before I got there.
Yeah, they had to haze you properly before letting you feel comfortable. Let's get into that a little bit because I want to talk about your own kind of personal journey with music.
Mm.
How, before the band, how did kind of music come into your life?
Before the band, I mean, I think kind of maybe a typical way, just I have 2 older brothers and they introduced me to some bands along the way, but early on, I guess it was just music in the house all the time. No one played. I didn't come from one of those families that, your dad played guitar or piano or whatever. We didn't have any of that in the house, but music was very prevalent. You know, um, Road trips to Six Flags Magic Mountain for the day is blasting AC/DC and Megadeth in the car, um, and then you get in the car with my mom going to and from school is, the pop radio, Michael Jackson, the Bangles, bunch of cool shit that like was just on the radio here in Southern California. Um, and then as there's, radio stations like K-Rock that started playing alternative music and stuff. So all this eclectic radio, there's so much different radio stations and all these genres that if you were in the car in Southern California growing up, I was really introduced to all this different style of music. And I take that for granted because that's just how I grew up, right? It's probably how
Yeah.
you grew up too, that you start traveling the world a little bit and you're like, that's not how it is. Most people don't get to learn about punk rock at that age or reggae at the same time as the top 40s,
Yeah.
as well being played. That's not how that wasn't normal, I guess, but it was to us. So I mean, just listening to music and being introduced to things from having 2 older brothers, I did love music. I loved to and my mom was an aerobics teacher, so she'd have the top.
Same.
Well, your mom was aerobics teacher?
Yeah, yeah. She was an
That's
aerobics
weird.
teacher, and she used to have these killer mixtapes, man, of just like,
Exactly.
like fucking Huey Lewis and Pointer Sisters and the Cars and all this cool shit. And it was super rad.
That's funny, man. My mom it was Family Fitness at the time that it got bought out by 24 Hour here in Huntington Beach. But yeah, she was a aerobics teacher and days when I was supposed to go to school but was homesick. Instead of, I didn't have a sitter or anything. She had to go to work. She put me in the corner of the room during the aerobics class and I'd dance around to the music, like I love the music, so I guess it's all to say is just it was really the environment that I was around was just there was a lot of music around it. I gravitated towards it. Um, and when I got to an age where, I had a birthday coming up and it was a few different options. You want a bike, you want the normal skateboard, the normal shit that all the other 12-year-olds were getting. I was like, I want a bass. So I started with that. I started learning trying to transcribe some great punk guys like Fat Mike and Matt Freeman, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bastardizing that for a while until I started to get the hang of it.
Yeah, Matt Freeman is I mean, he's insane, just on base, not like, not not personality wise,
Yeah,
but
really.
as a musician, he's just, I mean, I remember, and I'm sure you
Next
do
level.
too. I mean, listening to those early Rancid records and just the runs that he was going on, it was just like, holy shit. Like it was such a thing that separated them. I mean, obviously the songwriting and Tim and everything was amazing too. But that was kind of one of my first early experiences with like a different type of punk rock bass player. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I first heard "And Out Come the Wolves," going back to that, uh, K-Rock and stuff, like K-Rock was playing Rancid, like they were the first ones to start playing Time Bomb and what's the other big one off
Oh,
of "And
Ruby
Out Come the Wolves,"
Soho.
Ruby Soho. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and that record I remember on Epitaph Records. It came from my brother. He had the CD. He was playing in the room, and I heard Maxwell Murder for the first time, and I was like, "That's not possible," like.
yeah.
And then that bass though is it's just insane, and I just wanted to be able to play bass like that. Like, and I was like 12 years old at the time, and that was the thing. I was just like, that just sounds so cool, and I love the music, love the energy. I just want to be able to do something like that, and that was one of the biggest influences I had into music was just hearing guys like Matt play, and that was the first stuff I started learning was I would try and transcribe Rancid, No Effects, Bad Religion, Pennywise songs, like all the stuff I was hearing on the radio and again, Epitaph and Fat Records is very
Yep.
prevalent around here in Orange County. So you pick up, everybody was talking about the new punk band on the new compilation, and then you go get their record at Bionic Records down the street. It was the thing to do. And then I just started transcribing that shit.
Awesome, man. Yeah, Bionic was I mean, I know there's still one around, but the Huntington one is long gone. And
Hmm.
that store, man, for me too, it was just man, it was such an important spot for me. Just like going on finding, discovering new bands, talking to the people who worked there. They were
Hmm.
always super cool. And it's one of those things too where, I think everyone, if you're an artist, especially as a musician in those days, if times got tough, you could kind of go, you could sell some CDs and man,
Yeah. If you knew the guys over there, you could just go over there and be like,
yeah,
"Hey, I got
yeah,
like 10 CDs. Can you just put them on the end at the end cap here for a couple days for
yeah,
me?" And
yeah.
people would pick them up too, because just like you said, as consumers, we're just all like discovering bands going to Bionic. Where exactly did you grow up? Because I know we're actually pretty close to each other, right?
I grew up in East LA. I moved to Huntington when I was like 22, something like that.
Okay.
And I lived kind of all around downtown. Right now I'm on 12th Street in like Walnut downtown.
Oh,
But
dude, I was just by your house surfing a minute ago. So
yeah, yeah. I've been in the spot I'm at now for about a decade, maybe like 11 years, something like that. But
okay.
yeah, man. I mean, you know how Huntington is. People love to hate it, but it's pretty fucking awesome. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I can't. Yeah, I don't listen to any of that, dude. I've lived here my entire life. I'm not going anywhere. I've traveled the fucking world. I don't care. I love this spot. Like, cause as big as it gets and more people start to hear about Huntington, like you get all the riffraff and stuff and whatever. But everybody that I know that's stuck around, you're only like a separation between. It's still a very small town. Like
Yeah.
that community is still like it's like one separation from somebody else that that went to one of the two or three high schools around here, and everybody knows each other if you stick around long enough, and you have your niche and you have fun. And yeah, downtown can sometimes get a little weird, but whatever. It's not like it's scary weird. It's just like you get people coming downtown and they want to have a good time. Totally understand, but they take it a little too far sometimes. That's all good though. It's got to let loose every once in a while. We'll clean it up after.
Yeah, man. It's all good. It's all good. Was did you play in any bands before Avenged? Did you have
I
like
mean,
any like little
garage
like
bands.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, garage bands and like to play the talent show, somebody's backyard party if we could, that kind of thing. Yeah, I had a few different ones, some punk bands, mostly punk bands, like probably even one was a little bit more ska, and then some metal bands.
Oh.
Dude, I went through it all. I went
you
through it
got
all.
a you got a ska chapter.
Yeah, I had it. I had it for a minute. I was like, all right. I still love it. It's good. It's good stuff. All
Did
music.
you
There's something good in all music, I think.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think ska is an easy target sometimes. Did you
Oh yeah. But at the
did
time, man, you got to remember this was like 96, 97, going back to what was popular like in Southern California, man.
true.
That shit was booming. I mean, No Doubt was considered a ska band at one time,
Yeah.
and that they had just come out with Tragic Kingdom and it was blowing up everywhere, but they came from right here in Orange County. That was a big influence, man.
Did you ever go Fat Mike? Did you ever go lead vocal bass? Or were you
Oh
all
shit.
were
I
you ever just
attempted to. I attempted to. Luckily, that never made it to any of the parties or talent shows, I don't think. Maybe one talent show in my middle school talent show. I think I did. Actually, I know I did. We did my punk band, we instead of doing originals, because for whatever reason, I don't remember, I was like in sixth grade. Um, we did a cover of "Damn It" by Blink-182, and
Ooh,
I did lead vocals and played bass.
yes.
It was more Hoppus on it. I wasn't quite Fat Mike in it, but I was Hoppus in it. It was good. It was good.
How do you feel about Tom coming back to Blink?
I think it's awesome, man. Anytime you get these bands coming back together with the original lineup, I mean, I know that the other dude did great. I saw them at Muse Inc. here a few
Yeah,
years
yeah, yeah.
ago. The band sounded amazing with him, but I think it's something, to be said that when you're going back to a band that has been there for as long as Blink 182, you want that peacetime. You want that original trio. I mean, I know that,
Yeah.
Travis Barker wasn't exactly original, but he pretty much was. I mean, right after Dude Ranch, he's been there since. Um, and I think if you're gonna go to a concert, especially when you grew up with that band, like guys, you're my age, other fans that are our age, like we can remember in middle school when those songs were coming out for the very first time, and Blink-182 was a brand new thing.
Yeah.
So you have that in your image of Tom, Travis, and Mark, like, and that's what you want to go. Now you're going to go back and see it. That's what you really want to see. So I think it's awesome. And, Tom, I haven't met him personally, but Brooks Wackerman, our drummer, has done a lot of stuff with him before. He says he's a great dude. I know he gets a lot of flack for his UFO or alien stuff or whatever, but I don't think he's that far off, to be honest. So if he's off at all, like, I mean, I don't fucking know. I know enough to know I don't know shit. And
Yeah.
that's like, so, and I believe in infinite possibilities. So I'm not gonna bash anybody for what they think is right or wrong or whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to the reunion and to see, what they do, where they go, what kind of shows they play. Because I think it's super interesting now with kind of all three of them with where they're at. So I think it's going to be kind of cool to watch and see how they bring it back and what they do.
Oh man, I mean, I think it's got to be great for Mark after what
For
he's been
sure.
through in the last couple years. Like, just I could imagine, like, on some small scale, even just for guys like you and me, just woe is me, went through the pandemic, not being able to play shows and shit like that. The guy went through cancer, like that's taking it to an nth degree, right? And to come back, I'm sure for you, getting back on the road made you appreciate it that much more again, right? It's kind of like
Absolutely.
almost like the first time again. It's like a new love found again. You get jaded out on the road and you start to go, oh man, I wish I was home and shit. But when you're really forced home for a while, you're like, oh fuck, I missed that. Like that was something I was really taking for granted. And I could only imagine, and I don't want to speak for Mark, obviously. I don't know him or anything, but I could only imagine what that is going to mean for him after the last few years to get back and reconnect with the fans and just be out on stage doing what he loves to do.
Hell yeah, man. It's gonna be special. So we gotta inform our listeners here how you joined the band, because I'm sure it's a story you've told a zillion
Mm.
times, but some of our listeners might not be aware. So when it comes time to join Avenged Sevenfold, how does that all go down? How did you, come into meeting the guys? And I know you were all kind of friends for a little while, but
Mhm.
what's your version of the story?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much it. Like I was friends with the guys through one of my older brothers because they're a few years older than me. So one of my older brothers was right in the same grade with Brian and Jimmy growing up. Was good friends with them in middle school, so I knew the guys. Met Matt and Zach later when they were doing rehearsals in the garage at Matt's house. I had a band literally down the street with at my drummer's house, and we'd be jamming, and then we'd hear the local band that was actually doing something and like playing clubs, like they're playing Coos Cafe, like, and fucking we were like, and Chain Reaction, we're like, wow, how are these guys doing? This is amazing. Let's go try and learn something from them. So we'd go knock on their garage door and sit behind Jimmy in the tiny little garage space. They probably were annoyed as shit that these, like, especially at that time, right? They're fresh out of high school. We're like freshmen, sophomores in high school. They don't want to be around us, but they were kind enough to let us in because they knew us and stuff, and we just listened and became a fan through that. And then uh every once in a while I'd pick up the bass when practice was over and start jamming with Jimmy, because he was a big influence of mine through his other band, Pinkly Smooth, and I knew he was into
Yeah.
some other stuff. He was into, excuse me, Patent stuff, Bungle stuff, Primus stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and that was really kind of stuff that I was really getting into at the time. So I started just jamming with him afterward, and that was fun. We were just messing around. I was like, God, it feels so good to play with him for whatever reason. Looking back at it, I was like, wow, it really clicked. Um, but months go by and they go out on the road a couple of times and they're out in the middle of, I don't know where the fuck they are, in a van. I'll come back to this part of the story because I just heard a different version from Zach the other day on it, and it was pretty funny. But We so they're out on the road. I run into Val, who you mentioned earlier. Who ended up being our tour manager, was tour managing the boys at the same time, doing merch, everything. We could. She was doing it because she was Matt's girlfriend at the time, right? And I run into her at a party just here in Huntington, backyard party, and I was asking her how the tour was going, and she lets me know, the bass player's not there anymore. They're gonna have to find a new one. They got this tour coming up in 2 weeks. It was a big deal at the time. Like, I mean, it was a huge deal, really. It was co-headliner with Atreyu up and down the West Coast. Biggest tour that was at the time for those guys.
Yeah,
So
big time.
I told Val right there, I was like, well, it's only a couple weeks. I'll fill in. I was in high school, senior year of high school at the time. I was like, I'm sure I could learn the songs and fill in if if it gets that close. I'm sure you guys got other people in mind, but if you guys are really in a bind, just let me know. I'll see what I could do. And a few days later, I got a call from the boys, and they were like, would you really be able to do that? And I was like, yeah, I'll take a couple weeks out of school, and no big deal. Like, especially for me, I wanted to be in a band so bad. I was like, at least I could learn from this experience at the very least.
Hell yeah.
Wasn't expecting to join the band or anything. Then a couple weeks in, we were in the van, and we were about to play our two nights at the showcase to end the tour with Atreyu. And the guys asked if I wanted to stay on, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. I was having so much fun. They were light years ahead of me as musicians and a real band. And it was like that next step. And I was like,
Yeah.
fuck, let's go. Like, this is incredible. So that was pretty much how I started. And then I went back and told my parents, that's what I was gonna do. And I was just about to I think I just turned 18 right before that tour. So this was in 2002. Yeah, I just turned 18. So I was like, well, I'll finish the last semester of school through night school or whatever. And I got the pamphlet. I signed up, and I never turned it in. I never went back. I just I had all the intentions to get my GED because I probably should have, because there was no guarantees anything was gonna happen at this point. But I fucking lucked out. Everything worked out. It was great. Like, right after that tour, the boys started writing "Waking the Fallen," and I was there for the ride.
Dude, I mean, that's pretty amazing. That's legitimately like a Twisted Sister like video or something. Like
Mhm.
you dropped out of fucking high school to join Avenged Sevenfold, and then it just fucking took off from there. I mean,
Yeah.
have you thought about going back like Rodney Dangerfield style to get your GED?
Yes, I have. I'd be lying if I hadn't. I laugh because I was just taking my 5-year-old son to Friday Night Lights at Marina High School where I went. And he was, they have Friday Night Lights, and I was like looking around the school. I'm like, and they have an adult school like parking area right over there. I was like, I made the joke to my wife. I was like, should I go back? Like, that'd be kind of fun. Like, I would probably do terrible on the testing, and like the knowledge is completely, if it was ever there before, it's definitely gone by now. But like, I was thinking about it. I was like, but I would want it to be like you said, Ronnie Dangerfield back to school. I want to go back on campus and hang out with people. Like, that would just be funny.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I don't want to do
So
adult night school. That sounds grim. I want to go and like hang out with the kids. That'd
yeah,
be fun.
you want to join the swim team and
Triple Lundy, that shit. I'd love it.
Oh, that would be fucking amazing. So, okay, we'll fast forward a little bit here because I do want to talk about, I do want to talk about you guys breaking with City of Evil because,
Mhm.
as a musician, as an artist, I think that's a moment for you guys that just must have been so incredible. And I just wanted to get your take on it, looking back now, especially because some time has passed, and when that record comes out. Backcountry hits TRL, which is just hilarious talking about TRL, just in general.
I hope they
But
bring that back, man.
the music video was insane. The song was great. It was fucking everywhere. And you guys were, you guys were mainstream. I mean, it was nuts. It was on the radio. It was everywhere you could be. You guys just blew up. And then, from there, obviously it's been an incredible trajectory, just continuing to get bigger and bigger. But specifically around that time, that record, As the band is exploding and you guys are having a great time, you're playing shows, everything is happening, rock and roll dreams are coming true. When you look back on that time in the band, what are some things that you think about? What are some memories that come up?
Man, a lot of memories. I mean, so it was a whirlwind too, and I wish I could, uh, you know, take the time to see it a little bit more at like during that time. Everyone tells you when stuff like the older heads tell you, if you ever get there, make sure you soak it in as much as you can. You go, yeah, whatever, old timer. And man, I'm at that point now. I'm like, man, I wish I would have soaked it in a little bit more because it's funny you ask that question now because asked me 4 years ago, I would have had a very different answer. It was having a son and being home for this time. I've really actually taken the time to reflect for the first time in my life. And yeah, man, that was 2005 ish, I want to say, when that record came out. And we had made a big shift from Waking the Fallen in our sound. And, now our fans have grown accustomed to big shifts per album. But at the time, there was only 3 albums to go off of. So they didn't know what was to come. We didn't even know what was to come. We are just like, this is what we want to make now. Here it is.
Yeah.
And it wasn't well received right away. It really wasn't. It wasn't like, oh, right off the heels of Waking the Fallen, here we go. We had Beast and the Harlot out, and it wasn't doing its thing. And then, luckily, Joel and Benji from Good Charlotte took us up on that TRL thing. I mean, they had been on there forever, getting retired with all the Good Charlotte videos they were doing, and TRL was a real huge thing. I mean, talk about top 40. That was like the entire country voted every day, called in and voted, not just a text or something like that. They called in and voted for what videos they wanted to see each and every day at whatever time it was, like 3 or 4 o'clock. And yeah, and I mean, it was Good Charlotte was the only like rock band on it. Usually it was NSYNC and Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and all these kind of groups. And we didn't think anything of it other than, we had done a Warped Tour with these guys, kind of befriended them, and they're like, hey, why don't you come on and play one of your songs on TRL? We're like, you can make that happen. They're like, yeah, they're doing this thing where TRL people who've been here for a while are bringing up some new bands that they're into. So we want to bring you guys up. Couldn't thank them enough because that really changed the trajectory of our career in a lot of ways. We went up there. We did a performance of Backcountry live on TRL. Briefly met Lindsay Lohan on the way. It was like, oh, hi. She was nice. I mean, I can't say anything more than literally just hi as we passed by. But it was a weird time. We were back. I mean, Machine Head was there too. I remember. It was wild. We were in New York City, like just in Manhattan, Times Square, playing that. Then the next thing we know, we come out with the music video that was everything the song was inspired by. Hunter S. Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Perfect imagery. We got it together and put it out, and it started getting voted on TRL by all these people calling it in. And then, next thing we know, we were coming back to TRL, and it was our fans on the street, with the signs holding up Avenged Sevenfold fans. We're like, the only other bands in our genre that have done this is like Korn and Limp Bizkit. This is a pretty fucking big deal. And they did it in 99. This is in 2005 at the time. I mean, TRL was on its way out. I think we killed TRL. I think that was the problem. So we got too popular, and they're like, this isn't cool anymore. But yeah, no, that was a wild ride I mean, I was all of 20 years old at the time. I don't think I was 21 yet doing all that. And it's like that it was a wild ride. Everything just happened pretty fast pace. It's crazy because it seemed like when I look back at it, it's like, oh man, that was like a whole part of my life. And when I really look at the timetable of what it happened, it all happened in a year. Like by 2006, it was we were off to the races. We were starting to play small arenas, not the bigger arenas, but the smaller tertiary or secondary market arenas after that, with doing co-headliners with bands like Buck Cherry and stuff. And that was really what catapulted everything. And then thankfully it opened us up to an audience that, like I was talking about earlier, got used to us changing our sound every record and allowed us to have that process. Because you know, a lot of people on the outside at the time were thinking, oh, they're doing this to be commercial. They're doing this to do that, whatever. And we're just eclectic guys that like a lot of different music. And each time we sit down to make a record, I think as people know now, we're going to do something different. We're going to challenge ourselves do something different. We might be into different music at the time that's inspiring us. We don't want to go back every time and do stuff. You know, it's just not in our nature. And I know for you got to understand that too. You got to write what you feel. You can't try and fake anything. So it's just like that's just how it's always worked out for us. And to answer that question extremely long-windedly, it was a lot of fun. There's some great times. Man, I'm just trying to think of some of the things that I mean, being at the VMAs, that was a trip. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
speaking of Tom DeLonge, he was there for in the same category, Best New Artist, Angels and Airwaves. Rihanna was there. I think Chris Brown. The Rock was at the bar, and I still regret to this day not saying hi to the Rock. But yeah, I mean, it was the who's who of everybody, just like the VMAs are like every year. It was
Yeah.
massive event, and we're just there, just kind of hanging out. Oh, I ran into Fergie again. So Fergie gives us that award, and turns out Brooks Wackerman's wife Kelly is cousins of Fergie. So I went to a show that Brooks was doing, a little show in Long Beach, and Fergie's there, and he reintroduces us. I just introduced myself. I was like, "Oh, hey," and Brooks was the one that reminded me. He's like, "She's the one that gave you your Moon Man," and I was like, "That's right. It was her and Little Miss Sunshine gave us the Moon Man that night, and we had no idea. Like we were just like, we were sitting there just hanging out. Literally had no chance in our minds that we were going to win this award."
Dude.
And they started like Fergie and Little Miss Sunshine was up there, and they started walking up the Moon Men while they were, the at home. If you're watching on TV, they're showing the nominees.
Yeah.
In the when where we're seated, we start to see them bring out the Moon Men, and we're starting to count. Well, and that's 1, 2, 3. All right, there's not too many other nominees that have
Yeah.
more than 3 people in their group. Like here's 4, there's 5. Wait a second. And then they announced us as Best New Artist, and we were like, what the fuck just happened? It was
Dude, that's
incredible,
so
man.
incredible, dude. That's got to be such an insane moment, dude.
It really was. It really was. And I was young, and I think I said, I know I said like Queen Latifah is backstage with the microphone, and she goes, "Wow, you guys just won." They're seasoned vets at this of being on camera and having a microphone in their face at this point. Like I said, I'm all of 20 years old. They put the microphone in my face. And what are you going to do with your Moon Man when you get it home? And I just laughed and said, I think I'm going to stick it up my ass. And like, I don't know why that came out. I to this day, I still have not tried to stick the Moon Man in my ass, but it was, I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny, I guess, at the time.
That's
Everyone just
kind of classic Johnny, though. That's
apparently, yeah. I guess that's me.
And that, it's really cool what you were saying about, how you guys, kind of set out from the gate to want to, really change record by record. And I think that when you do that early on, your fans eventually they understand it, and then they appreciate it, and then they look forward to it, and you guys, was The Stage the last record really in 2016?
Yeah, that was the last record we put out.
So your fans are pissed by now.
They're furious.
They want that new. They want that new album.
Do you guys get that every time you take a minute to make a record? How fast are you guys?
That's what is it? 4? I mean, you're coming up on 6 years. Next year will be 7 years for a diehard fan base like the one you guys got. Yeah, I mean, I understand.
No, I was just asking the question. I'll answer.
I mean, for us,
I want to know because like we're in the same world. I want to know, like, I have my jaded perspective of what I think, and I just wondering, like, do you guys' fans do that to you too if it's been too long for a record?
Yes, 100%. But it's like, it's also, time is, once you kind of pass a certain threshold as a band, you're like, the most important thing is that the record's awesome and everyone's hyped on it and everyone goes into it, writing it, recording it, releasing it. with the right headspace, so in that respect, I think the time is just, it's whatever, the record comes out when it comes out. And as long as it's a banger and something you guys are proud of, I'm sure your fans are going to fucking love it. But all that being said, what's up with the record? What's going on?
Well, no. So I was just going to look at my phone when you're talking, because I thought it was 2017. It could have been 2016. I don't know. But if you looked it up, you probably would know better than me. But it was whenever it was. It's the last time we did a record, I guess. So it's been a minute. We went on tour for that one. We came back and we had to end that one early. Actually, in 2018, we were scheduled to do Shed tour with Prophets of Rage. We unfortunately had to cancel that after Matt blew out his voice in Europe, actually during the European run to that summer of 2018. So yeah, that's the last. We came home then. Took a little time, as we usually do. Everyone's got young kids. I had just had my kid in 2017. Brian had just had his first kid in 2017. So we just kind of like, all right, we're gonna write another record. Matt's got to figure out what's going on with his voice right now. Anyway, let's take a beat, and when we're feeling it, we'll start writing. We started writing pretty quickly after that, though. Honestly, like that was fall of 2018. I think by beginning of 2019, we really started to write. And then we're going through the process, getting ready to get close to finishing this damn thing up, and 2020 happened, like it did to everybody else. And we didn't know what it was gonna entail. It's not like it's the only excuse. There's a lot of factors that happened, right? But that was one of the first ones that came into play. And so the next thing we know is like looking at it, going, well, it gives us more time to perfect this record. Not that we're on any crunch time by any outside forces. It's really just comes down to us, and luckily has always been the way for us in our careers. We wait till it's ready, man. Like when we're feeling it, like you just said. I mean, that's just our process. And I know it sucks for some fans to have to wait so long, I get it. They're excited. I'm not mad at it. In fact, I find it very humbling and endearing that they care that much, but there's that process that takes a little time. And then again, back to the young kids, we sit there looking at what really matters. And we're going, well, this is kind of some forced time that we're being given right now. Let's take advantage of it. And we did. And we finished the record in parts. This is the first time we've done a record in parts, really. Like usually we write it, we get into the studio, 3 months of, we write it and demo it out at home, however long that takes until we feel good about it, get into pre-production. And then for 3 months, or actually less, I'm thinking 3 months. I was like back when the budgets were a lot bigger. Probably like about a month, we'll get in the studio just laying down the tracks.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it. We go mix and we go master. We had to do this one in chunks for several different reasons. And, COVID played a part. Being able to get string players together was an issue. Also just life. We just wanted to take our time with it, and you come in and do drums for a couple weeks, and we take some time away, and then we come back and start laying down guitars, and then, start laying down bass, and let's get the orchestras on it. Now it's time to get Matt. But in between each of those, we were taking a break. And it's not like we need oh, we're just going to tell the fans to wait. It's just, no, it's not like we're posturing anything. So we want to finish the record and make everyone happy too. We want to be happy, but we want to be happy with the product and happy with our lives. Like I said, the last few years have really put into perspective, at least for myself. I don't want to speak for everybody in the band, of what's really important. We love our band. It's very important. We love our fans. Our families are got to be number one though over it. Even over our blessed career as a band, our families have still got to be number one over it. And that's really what it came down to. And it's really what we're looking at. And it's a blessing, man. It really has been awesome. I use the word blessing. I'm not religious at all, but it's just a good word to use. It's been great to have been forced to have this look at life, at what we have accomplished, what we're going to do, what we want to still do more of. And then figuring out where we want to put the importance level of different things. And That's not to say that the album is not important, but the livelihood of our and love
Yeah, of
and everything of
course.
our family and children's got to come just a little bit ahead of it, so.
Just a little bit, just a little bit, just a
So,
little
but
bit.
at this point now, though, we're the finish line is visible. Put it that
Awesome,
way.
dude.
So we're getting it all wrapped up, and then, as you know, there's a process that happens after that. So we're looking at sometime next year. We're going to be dropping the record. That's not news to anybody. It's going to be sometime next year, and that's what we're looking at. And along the way, we're going to be doing other fun stuff. We got our fan club that we built a year ago now, and this year we're going to be doing a Halloween party here with them in Orange County.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And there'll be little announcements along the way, I'm sure, for a lot of fun stuff. And we're still very much an active band. It seems like we're not, because we don't have new music, I guess, to a lot of people, which that's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like you said. I mean, the music's gonna come, the music's on the way. Everyone's just got to be patient a little bit. It's all
Yeah.
good. What about who's producing it? Can you
Joe
let the-
Barisi.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, you know
we did our
Joe.
last record with Joe. He's fucking
You know
great,
Joe.
man.
Evil Joe, baby. He's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah,
For the guys that listening or watching at home, though, too, like he just did that Slipknot record, the new
Yep.
Slipknot record, which is incredible. He's always worked with Tool. He's a guy. He's an unsung hero in a lot of ways. Like, he's not one of those big flashy names as a producer, I don't think. Amongst guys like us,
yeah. Rock guys love him. You know what I mean? I mean, he's just a great he's a great rock and roll engineer and producer, and he's just an awesome dude. And he worked with you guys on the stage too, right?
Yeah. Stage was the first record we worked with them. We had a great time working with him. He was awesome. As you know, he can really get into it in the studio with getting the right tones and the right sounds. And like you go to his place in Pasadena and all those pedals and everything he's got, and you're like, what kind of sound are you looking for? All right. And he pulls out about 10 different things to get that sound until you get, and you run it through. It might take you 4 hours to lay down a 5-second part, but it's worth it every time. It's worth it.
That's always funny, because like that's as the singer, that's like you open up the studio door, you walk in, and you just see like the whole floor full of bass pedals, and you just hear, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna go get some lunch.
This is gonna be a minute. A lot of hurry up and wait. Absolutely, though. You just nailed it right there, man. But he's such a good. I think one of the important things, obviously, is what he does, just engineering and getting the right tone.
Yeah.
Every time, his knowledge of that over the years is just so great. And he brings a lot of what he's learned over the years into a modern way and makes it new every time. I love his sounds. He's so brilliant at getting them. But moreover, as a producer, just having, you're working with someone like we just talked about for hours upon hours. That personality has got to be there. And he's just got like this even kill fucking demeanor about him always. It's just it's relaxing. Like when you start feeling all the pressure, he's just still right there with you. And I think that's such an important, underrated thing for a producer, to have the right personality in there.
Yeah.
I don't know about for you guys, but if we were in there with someone that was high energy or wanted to butt heads back at any point, the records wouldn't get done. We're too stubborn. We're too stubborn. I'm just being honest. We're way too stubborn. So he just works perfectly with us, and I think he has for guys like you and some of the other bands we mentioned. He's become a very good friend too. He's an awesome dude.
Yeah, he's great, man. Shout out Joe Barisi. Any bass solos on the new record?
Oh, dude, I don't know. No, no. There's.
Have you ripped a bass solo?
Who does bass solos? Like,
have you ripped one live? Have you ripped one live before?
We've done jam stuff where I have like moments of soloing and
but
stuff.
No, like
not like everyone's all off the stage and I'm there alone. No,
Michael Anthony spotlight with the fucking Jack Daniels bass just roll.
I'd love to. I don't think I have this. I'm not quite at that skill level. I just I play my part. I play my role very well. I think I do that very well. And there's spots, of course, but I wouldn't call anything a solo. It's like, it's just, I'm a supporting actor, man. I know my
Yeah.
role.
I got you. I got you. Let's talk about Drinks with Johnny now, because
Ooh.
you are in the podcast game, much
Yes,
like
sir.
myself. And it's a lot of fun. It's something that's really brought me a lot of joy that I didn't really expect, just being able to talk to people like yourself about music, art, life, all that stuff. So tell us a little bit about the podcast, Drinks with Johnny. When did it start? I saw you had Matt Money Smith on. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
He's a LA
Except for
sports
the one
radio
thing,
guy.
being a Chargers guy.
Yeah. Chargers guy's no good. But you've had like Russ Rankin, Lars Fredrickson. I saw you had Chris Daughtry on.
Yeah.
That's pretty. He's my bald brother. But tell us about the podcast. When did it start? What do you love about it?
Oh man, I love start with there. What I love about it, man, similar to you. I enjoy talking to people. I mean, maybe I'm just desperate for people to like me. I don't know, but it's fun to like have that conversation and take friendships to a different level that already existed, or even start new friendships, or just interested in what they do for a living and what makes them tick. I find it all very inspiring and very cool, and like I said, interesting. Basically, I love every aspect of that. And then, of course, being able to do it to two of my friends that aren't necessarily in the industry at all, and they're just buddies from around here that I started doing it with, and they're the guys making it all happen for me behind the scenes, and Brandon Lombardo and Sam Hawkins, and being able to have another project that's completely different than Avenged Sevenfold, but still with friends and have that camaraderie is just, I absolutely love it. And then interacting with our hardcore fan base on Discord and stuff like that, and every
Yeah.
premiere that we do on YouTube. There's our niche of hardcore Drinks with Johnny fans now, and love every single one of them. It's really cool. It's cool to have your own thing, I guess, too, is what I'm getting at. Like Avenge is great. I absolutely love it, but this is very different, but it's our own thing. Like me and my two buddies, our own thing, which is really cool. Yeah, how it started. That was an interesting one because I didn't know what podcasts were other than the word and Joe Rogan. Like that's all I knew about podcasts. I didn't know that there was more than one. I thought it was just Joe Rogan. But I knew YouTube a little bit because everyone's seen and laughed their asses off at videos that they've seen on YouTube.
Yeah.
So we got wind that we had the rights to our YouTube channel this whole time or something like that, and we could create content on there and do what we want with it. Like any other social media, we were kind of slow to and didn't realize it at the time. We were like, oh, is that what that's for? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we started coming up with ideas. Like we did these breakdown videos where we broke down the Pro Tools tracks and how we recorded all these different songs. And another idea I had was to have guys like yourself, people that we've been on tour with, uh, friends. I mean, again, going back to Orange County and LA area, close enough. Have people over to the house, make a cocktail, and have a chat. I mean, actually, the iteration before that was I was going to make a cocktail and then write a bass line or write a song that made me think of that cocktail. There's gonna be a little 10-minute video that we're gonna do on Sinister Gates's hissinner.com, which is still doing great for his guitar school. He's like, well, would you want to do something there? I'm like, dude, I can't teach. I barely know what I'm doing. Like this is,
Yeah.
like I just do. I can't. Like I hear and I try my best. That's all. I don't know how to teach what I do. So that was what I had to offer. I was like, I'll make a drink and I'll write a song, and it'll be a fun little thing, and I'll interact with your fans there on the channel. And then, like I said, the YouTube thing came up, and I was like, well, what if I did the same thing, just had people over? Maybe they'll jam with me, maybe not, and we'll just go through stuff that we've done in our history. It'll be more Avenged based. It was the original iteration was going to be for Avenged. I was just gonna be kind of a cocktail host, and we're gonna go through different moments of our history and stuff. And I was
Yeah.
just gonna sit down and do that. Um, quickly realized that wasn't really where the conversations were going naturally.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, why am I forcing anything? Like, we're trying to make them 20-minute videos. 20-minute episodes, but everyone hangs out over here for 2-3 hours. And I'm like, and that's not even us sitting down and talking too, you know? So it's like, all right, like, let's just make it more fun and more free flowing. And at that point, we moved it over to its own channel, started putting the audio out as a podcast. At that point, I still didn't know what podcasting was. So I was learning the craft as I was going, you know, it was like, which it was a craft. I just figured, you know, you listen without knowing too much about podcasting, you start listening to a couple of podcasts and you think, oh, they're just having a conversation, talking about some cool shit, you know, or you get into the educational ones and it's like, well, it's kind of like a lecture. It's really cool. I'm learning something from it. Not thinking about all the prep or any work that goes into any art, any form that goes into it, which is good. That means that who you're listening to is good. You know, they make you feel like it is something anyone can do, right?
Yeah.
But you know, early on, I listened back to some of those episodes, and it's cringeworthy, dude. I'm like, ooh, I sound like high pitched voice and everything, just so unrelaxed, you know, like. Yeah, it was just wild, and I was getting too drunk sometimes. Like, I was like, "Oh, that's just a." I had one with John Domayan, and he was a couple hours late to the house, and I was already a few sheets in, and then we played Jenga for drinking game of Jenga. By the end of it, like I look back, like our director looked back at the video, he's like, you want to put this part out? And like, I couldn't talk. And I was like, nah, we can't put that part out. Like, we're going to have to cut a different outro. So there's a lot of growing pains through that.
Yeah.
And like I said, when I started to learn what podcasting was more about and really trying to learn the craft that it really is. And it's become fun. It's a hobby that like, there's so many different ways to do, you know, just like music. It's like your style can be completely different than mine, but it's the same thing, right? You know, in a lot of respects. And for me, it's just finding my voice, funny enough to say, in podcasting along the way with just meeting new people, talking to old friends, you know, like yourself, you know, rekindling old things, you know, and talking about something that happened 20 years ago in the UK, you know, it's fun, you know, it's that reflective point in my life anyway, just kind of naturally happened where I could talk about that stuff and share it with people. Or man, I'm meeting so many people that and befriending so many people in works. I mean, entertainment at large, you know, like I grew up as a huge professional wrestling fan, and now, you know, through some connections, I've become really good friends with a few of the guys that are wrestling these days, and had them on the podcast and come over to my house. I take my son to the events now and stuff, and it's just that's a cool thing. Like Darby Allin in AEW, he was a TNT champion a while back, and he was traveling through, and he comes over to the house to do a podcast, and my son and me watch him every Wednesday night, and he shows up with the title, and my son's 4 years old at the time, like 4 years old. And I'm sitting there in my perspective when I was 4 years old. Bret the Hitman Hart was the Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorites. I had the fucking glasses. My dad took me to an event. I got the belt. I loved him. And I was like, wow, this kid has no idea that one of the champions of something that he watches is at his house right now. I would have like, my son took it in stride too. He's just like, what's up, man? Like hanging out with him. And I'm like, dude, I would be shitting my pants if I were you. Like this is a real, like the person on TV is real and he's over at my house, you know? So just experience. That's all, like, just to talk about the experiences I've gotten through doing this podcast is just, it's fun. And I really hope the goal for me on it now at this point, goals always change. I think at least they do for me. My goals always change in life. Like as I start to learn more. But originally the podcast was to get to know some people, have some fun with it. Now my goal really is to get it to a point where I don't want to compare it, but like a Joe Rogan years ago, where people wanted to go on because that's how you got your exposure, you know, like, and there's enough bands out there right now that don't get that, you know, there's plenty of exposure on social media and stuff like that, but it doesn't always translate. I'd like to be able to give back at this point, you know, get it to a point where there's an audience here that when a guest comes on my show, they notice a little maybe a jump in a couple streams of their movie or their
Yeah.
social media or something. Like that doesn't have to be maybe completely discovered there, but maybe I could take my fan base that I've built over the last 20 years and kind of show them some broaden everyone's horizon together, because I'm just a fan of entertainment in general. Sports is entertainment to me, like I just love it all. And I think that's what life is all about.
Yeah.
It's just hanging out and everyone being able to do what the fuck they want and be really good at it. Like that's just such a beautiful place that way. If everyone just loves each other for that and can see the beauty in what they do and be open-minded to it, and you're gonna find something cool about it because that person loves it so much. Otherwise, they want to do it in
Yeah.
entertainment. You're gonna find something cool about it. So I just think like that in general is just kind of the idea at this point of the podcast. Like it's drinks with Johnny because that's where it's the origin was cocktails and stuff. And I mean, even early on, we had Jake the Snake Roberts on, who was sober for 10 years, still sober today. And he was like, well, I can't really do it with drinks and stuff. And I was like, nah, dude, we had bottles of water, man. Like it's still,
Yeah.
if you want to have a drink, I, I clearly have you covered, but if not, like it's all good. Like we could just have a conversation too.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And it's really cool viewing the podcast as something that you can kind of give back a little bit with, or almost like a media outlet for up and coming bands and artists, and they get that drinks with Johnny bump, they get
Yeah.
that little extra love. That's pretty cool, man. What about if you do you have any like dream guests, one or two, if you could think off the top of your head, maybe some people you'd love to have on?
Well, The Rock, we mentioned him being at the
Yeah.
VMA is one of the reasons why I kicked myself in the ass. I might have had that initial introduction to him at that time had I had the balls to say hi to him. But Stone Cold Steve Austin, I'll go to wrestlers. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I love wrestling, so like that. I'd love to have some just sports guys in general. That's the one thing. Like we've had some fighters on the show, some MMA fighters and some boxers. And professional wrestlers, but not like any from like the major three sports as it be in America, be it football, basketball, or baseball. I'd love to have any of those guys. Anybody on the Raiders, if you're watching, Derek
Oh,
Carr.
yeah.
I'd love Waller, any of the boys, Jacobs, any of them. Past or present. You know what I really want is beast mode. I'd love
Oh,
to.
yeah. Marshawn would be great.
Marshawn Lynch would be. Yeah, that would be a fun conversation, I think.
Marshawn would be fucking amazing. That would be great, man.
Yeah. Again, these are all people that's my dream. Like they get no bump from being on it. Like they're good. They're set. But I mean, there's actors and actresses I grew up watching, like Jennifer Love Hewitt. Had the
Oh, that'd
biggest
be
crush on
good.
her.
Yeah.
Biggest crush on her, and I'd love to have her on the podcast. We never met, but she was at an award show that we played called the Scream Awards for Spike TV.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and I remember she didn't have a very happy look on her face while we were performing. I don't know if she just ate something bad that day or what, but she wasn't vibing to our song Scream at the time. So I don't know. Maybe the sound was bad too. I don't know, but I'd like to ask her. I'd like to ask her on the podcast. Is what
You
I'm
got to
saying.
get her on the pod and find out. That's the only way to get down to it. A couple more questions for you, Johnny. I know, it's a busy day for everybody. I appreciate your time, my man. It's October. It's spooky season. It's Halloween time.
Oh yeah.
You strike me as someone who fucks with Halloween. Do you fuck with Halloween? Yeah, heavy.
Absolutely. Big time.
What do you love most about it? What are some of your favorite horror movies? Let's kind of dive into October and everything that encompasses Halloween.
Right. Yeah. For me, it's the best party season around. I mean, I just absolutely love Halloween. I always have since I was a kid, just dressing up, I think one year I went as Michael Jackson as a kid. The other year was like The Undertaker. Brother went as Slash. It's just fun to like dress up and have that. I guess I just like playing dress up. It was what it really comes down to. And then as you get older, the parties, when everyone gets involved and everyone's just no one seems to care. Like even before they had a couple of drinks, if they're dressed up, they care a little bit less already.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun for me. And then now times have changed a little bit in the sense that I got a son, so it's just really cool to share that experience with him, go trick or treating, that whole noise. But you know, the Saturdays before, he goes to my brother's house and I still get to party. So that's the deal.
That's the tradition.
That's the tradition. He spends the night at my brother's house and me and the wife party for Halloween. But yeah, for me, it's the dress up, it's the imagery.
Yeah.
I've just always been a fan of horror movies since I was really little. I loved Nightmare on Elm Street. It was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Loved it to the point that I had nightmares when I was 5 years old watching it, you know, and I love the decorations. I mean, look at the band I'm in. We got a fucking skull with bat wings, for fuck's sake. Like that's kind of sums it all up, right? You know, it's I love that imagery, like Misfit style, that darkness, Alice Cooper kind of, you know, beheading people on stage.
Yeah.
All that imagery that came with a lot of the music that I grew up listening to and the movies I was watching just kind of shaped it all. And now, like, I haven't decorated up here yet at the bar, but like I've already done the outside of my house. I go big every year we always get a couple new items. This year we got a 12-foot witch in the lawn. And some other really fun things that just pop out, scarecrow and shit, and still have the fog machines on Halloween night. Big fan of horror movies. You know, it's tough though, because I haven't seen Halloween Ends yet. Is that streaming yet? What's the date today?
I don't know if it's streaming out yet. I was gonna ask you, fuck, marry, kill Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers. What do you do?
Ooh. Fuck. I'm wondering who I'm gonna fuck in there. That's honestly the first thing that comes to my mind is like, ooh, who am I gonna fuck out of that one? Like, I think I want to marry Freddy because he'd keep me on my toes with all the puns and stuff. You know, I like the conversational aspect of it. Fuck, who am I gonna kill? Which ones were we going with here? Remind me.
So we got Freddy Krueger, we got Jason Voorhees, and we got Michael Myers.
Michael Myers. I gotta kill either Jason or Mike just because I don't want to fuck them. They're not gonna say much, you know.
You got to fuck one of them.
Who's that leaving me with?
No, it's just three. It's Freddy, Jason, or Michael. So you're taking one of them to bed.
Shit.
And if you're marrying Freddy, then that's
I gotta marry Freddy. I'll take Myers to bed. I'll have to kill Jason.
Yeah, I think that's good.
But how do you kill Jason? How do you kill him?
Yeah, he never dies. He's always coming back.
Freddy versus Jason. I saw that on the road. We're going back to the van days. I think Jimmy had a long trench coat with a hole cut out. This is before all the theaters would allow you to drink in there. So we just like filled up a bunch of beers in it and went in and watched Freddy versus Jason years ago. Like we didn't even know we had been on the road, so we didn't know what movies were out. This is before we all had laptops and stuff, so we didn't know what the fuck was going on other than our day to day. We got a show tonight, and a show today, blah 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 blah. So we just went to the movie theater for something to do, and we saw fucking the whatever it's called, the marquee saying Freddy versus Jason. We're like, what is this? Went in and did not disappoint. It was such a good movie.
It's so good. It's so good. How do you feel about pumpkin spice?
I'm a pumpkin spice fan, man.
Yeah,
I am.
Me too.
I'm not a white girl about it, but I definitely love me some pumpkin spice, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You get into it too?
Yeah, I fuck with it. I mean, I love, pumpkin pie is one of the greatest things ever. Pumpkin flavor is legit, and it's been shamed, and it kind of got the Sublime treatment. I feel it just got overplayed.
That's the problem. It did get overplayed. Fucking Karen overplayed it for us, and now we're fucked.
Yeah,
it ruined it for everybody. But I love a good pumpkin spice. I mean, have you had any of those like pumpkin beers? There's only a few of them that do it really well.
No, I haven't. Yeah, I
there's
always
a
think
bunch of
about with
others.
stuff like that, like what it's gonna be like throwing it up. Like you never want to have that taste. No,
Well, you don't
'cause it's
always have to
like
drink till you
that's
throw
like
up,
that.
Matt.
Yeah, it's like
I don't say you always had to, but it usually ends up that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Last questions here. Sailor Jerry podcast.
Yeah,
Norman
man.
Collins, one of the godfathers of traditional tattoos. You are a heavily tattooed man yourself. What was the first tattoo that you got?
That was this one on my arm. A little fucking really funny one. Here's when you're 18, you just turned 18. You're like, man, I want a fucking tattoo. And I thought I was all dark, so I was into Edgar Allan Poe. And I think it was my fucking social studies book had this little piece of art like depicting the raven. For whatever reason, I really liked it, and I thought it looked good on my shoulder. It did not. And that's where it stays. I've had it touched up by Grant Cobb since to make it look a little bit better. But that was the very first tattoo. I didn't hate it at the time, but now I look back at it, I'm like, I don't even like books. Like, why am I picking something out of a social studies book? That actually, its only correlation to Edgar Allan Poe is some social studies assholes fucking artwork depicting it. You know, like it's not like it was
Yeah.
like this nice piece that was done by someone famous and they put it in there. You know, it's like I don't know. If I had gone back, I would have done something different. Maybe still Poe, but maybe not that. Maybe not that choice. You know,
Yeah. What's the favorite tattoo that you got?
favorite. I guess the only one that I have that I would consider my favorite because it's the only one that I have that's sentimental, and for the very reason that I don't like sentimental tattoos generally because I think they're fun. That's just how I believe. You know, I know a lot of people get sentimental tattoos for various reasons, and everyone's got great reasons for them. I only have one, and it was for the passing of the Rev Jimmy Sullivan. It's the one on my chest, and more importantly is the late that I had put on top of it. It's his death bat skull that we had done by an artist. One of our friends actually. And I got it all over my chest piece, and then I added late on it because he once shared a story with me that his uncle had passed away, and he was close to his uncle, but like he always had a fun relationship with him. So when he passed, he went to the funeral and he like walked up to the coffin, or not the coffin, the grave rather, and just gave him a late. Like that was how he said goodbye. And I thought it was the funniest thing. Like both of us started cracking up about it. And like that was from that point on, me and him, that's how we said goodbye to each other. It was late. You know, it was just like even when you're dead, that's how I'm gonna say goodbye to you, I guess, kind of thing. So it's the only sentimental tattoo I really have. So I think that's my favorite. Other than that, I still stand by my beer and wine tattoos on my knuckles because that's just a really stupid thing to do. And I said earlier in the podcast,
And I stand by that.
Yeah, it's a very Johnny thing to do. Apparently, it's just who I am. So,
Right on, man. I appreciate you sharing that story about the Rev, man. Rest in peace for sure, Jimmy. Cool, man. Last question here. I asked this for everybody who comes on the podcast. What to you, Johnny Christ, is the meaning of life?
that is a loaded fucking question for me right now, Matt. I don't think there is a meaning. I don't know. You know, that's that. It's so funny. You're catching me on the right day, my brother. Like I just got done surfing, contemplating life out there as I usually do in between sets, you know. And I've been struggling with this over the last few years, to be honest. Like just thinking about that, you know, after I had a son, the first thing was like, it's everything is him, you know, and it still very much is. But what does that mean? Like, it's just crazy. Like I was never scared to die before him. Now he's around, and it's like that feeling of you want to be able to spend as much time possible with this person that you love more than anything else. And you can extend that to whoever it is in your life that you just want nothing but that time because that's all you have is that time. And that's the only thing you like. I don't want to miss anything that is involving my son or my loved ones. I'm extending that to my friends and family. I just don't want to miss any of that. But eventually I will. And like, what does that mean? And where do you go if there is an afterlife? I don't know. I think I have a pretty good inclination that there isn't an afterlife, or at least my consciousness won't have an afterlife. Maybe my energy goes somewhere else, as the Buddhists believe, or whatever it may be. But again, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say without a shadow of a doubt. There's no evidence to prove one way or the other at this point. So I just kind of, my inclination from the evidence I gathered so far in my life is that you kind of just are gone, your consciousness at least. Maybe there's, like I said, some other things that happen with, energy never goes away, never really is gone all the way. Maybe there's something to that. But I guess that what I struggle with is what are we here for? What does it all mean? The big questions, why, like everybody has. And how do you deal with that? How do you get that to silence for just a little bit so you can enjoy the time, right? So what does life mean? I don't know. I don't think it means much, man. I think what it means is you get this time to be with hopefully the ones around you that you love, and soak in all those times as much and have as much fun as you possibly can. Try your best, not, just love one another. Just have love in your heart, I guess, really. And just like be open-minded, because at the end of the day, like what you're fighting about, what you're getting angry about, it doesn't fucking matter. It's such a, like, we like to think that we're like all like what our perception of where we live is all right in here, and it's different than yours. You could live the same life right next to me and you'll have a different perception. And that blows my mind, because it's like that's more unique than a thumbprint. Like that's your perception is more unique than anything in the world, yet it's so fleeting. It's going to be gone, and it's not going to have really made an impact in the grand scheme of things. It will to your friends, your family and stuff, but the biggest emperors of the world, the biggest kings, whatever, they end up the same. It's like so what are you fighting for? Why are you still holding on to this ego that you have that means you're so important? You're only important in your perception, which is a great thing to have, and you surround yourself with people who also feel that way, and hopefully more and more people start to feel that way, and realize we're all in this together. That's the fuck thing. Every single one of us comes in and goes out generally the same way. And that's the plot of life. Like, however it happened, why it happened, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what happens after or why we're here. It truly doesn't, at least at this point in our understanding as a human race, because in this point in our understanding, it goes anyway. So we're all here together. Let's try to be kind. Let's try not to offer any more suffering to the next person, because trust me, I know that I'm not the only person that has these thoughts. So they're already suffering in their own mind enough. I don't need to add shit to that, right? It's like you're going through some shit too. We're all going through some shit. Let's just be kind and try and have as good of a ride on whatever the hell this is as we can.
My man, Johnny Christ, thank you for being on the Sailor Jerry podcast, my brother. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your energy.
You,
it was awesome to catch up with you, dude.
Absolutely. We got to have you on the Drinks with Johnny show. I'll text you and we'll get that going too, man. I'd love to have you on.
Absolutely. All right, Johnny.
All right. Have a good one, brother.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah. That's a wrap on episode 47 of the Sailor Jerry podcast. As always, huge amounts of respect and gratitude to our guests, the amazing Johnny Christ of Avenged Sevenfold. Johnny, thank you very much for your time, man. It was really cool catching up with you. Congratulations on the band's success. Looking forward to the new album, of course. You can follow Johnny at Johnny Christ. Of course, follow Avenged Sevenfold and follow the Drinks with Johnny podcast as well. He's doing some really cool things there, and it's great to see everything that he's got lined up. He seems like he's in a really good place, so that always makes a dude like me happy. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you can also follow me at 213 Mattman. You can follow Sailor Jerry at Sailor Jerry. And please do not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Sailor Jerry spiced rum is made the old school way. 92 proof, bold and smooth as hell. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Peace.